Hello, hello.
We're gonna start in a few minutes, so as they're trying to put the chairs out, if you'll move a little bit out of the way so they can put the chairs out. Thank you. Really, Robert? Go have a seat. How are you doing today? So we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you all so much for coming. My name is Tasha Bradley, and I'm the Senior Vice President for Student Engagement, Enrollment, and Success at Wilberforce University. And tonight is a really special night. We have some really powerful guests with us. And so just to get us kind of warmed up, let's just give them a round and ourselves a round of applause. Now, Wilberforce, I feel like you can do better than that. So let's really give them a nice welcome. So you all look so beautiful out there. So give yourself a little pat on the back for that. Looking nice, looking great. So I have the honor of introducing President Felton, who will provide the welcome, and then we'll get started. So President Felton.
Good evening, everybody. Not going to belabor the point because you guys are in for a treat. It is really good to know that Wilberforce is thought of on a national level, and to have these extraordinarily accomplished individuals, each of them in their own rights, have contributed to society in great ways, and are really kind people. And it's been really fun chatting with them, and I was really curious as to know as to how this happened, how they came, how they chose Wilberforce. And they said for several reasons. One, because it's the oldest private historically black college. Yes. And Quentin James has a very good friend, he and his wife, whom you'll get a chance to meet here, who happens to be a Wilberforcian and a member of our Board of Trustees. And we've since discovered, Stephanie and I have some really good mutual friends. And so one of the small lessons in our brief conversations, really around the table, we could really connect dots, was this overwhelming, resounding agreement that it pays to be kind. it pays to be kind, right? And I would say it another way if there were no microphones here and we weren't streaming and all that good stuff, but it is paramount to your existence. Sometimes your jobs are predicated on how you treated people in the past. So as you're walking across the campus, be mindful of that. But I want to get out of their way, and I want to introduce a young lady who is an integral part of this evening, and I'm looking forward to hearing what you all have to say. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Stephanie Brown James, who is with Vestige Strategies. Stephanie, it's all yours.
I mean, real talk, did y'all check his shoes, though? He's fresh. But not only that, he's so committed to Wilberforce, and he's so committed to your advancement as students, as leaders today and for the future. And so we're just grateful to be on a campus that is fired up, that is ready to have some good conversation about what Black people can do to make sure that our present, our future, for not just us, but for our families and future generations is strong. And it all starts with not just what you all have going on here on campus as students, but really what you do outside of Wilberforce's campus. And so we are here with the Change in the Climate Tour. We have been to 6 campuses already. We've been to Morehouse University in Atlanta, Tuskegee, Florida A&M, Harvard University, Howard University, Cleveland State University, and now we're here at Wilberforce. So that just shows you that you all are among the best and brightest and top universities in this country. So we're so grateful that you all are here. And the purpose of this conversation, and while we're going around the country, did y'all know that it's a big event coming up in a couple of days? Voting, right? And at the end of the day, voting is not about candidates. It's not at all about candidates. It's really about you, and it's about the decisions that you make will represent your interests. And so today we're going to talk about issues. We're going to talk about your interests. We're going to talk about what motivates you as young people today. And we're going to start the conversation off with our wonderful, esteemed panelists. We've been traveling around the country together. We're all good friends as well. So I just want to take a few minutes to introduce them. My husband, Quentin, is also part of the team here. He always says I don't introduce myself, so let me do that real quickly. Again, my name is Stephanie Brown James from the Land of Champions. Y'all saw the game last night. Cavs is about to repeat. And I am the CEO of Vestige Strategies. We are a civic and community engagement consulting firm. We work with organizations and companies around the country to figure out the best ways to reach out, especially to Black people. And so we're happy to be one of the organizers of this tour. In 2012, I was President Barack Obama's African American Vote Director, meaning that it was my responsibility to get Black folks out to vote in 2012, and we did that. More than anybody else in this country, Black folks voted. So let's know our strength and our power, and I'm just really excited to be here with you all today. And let me introduce our great panelists. Next to me, we have a dear friend, Telly Medina, who is based in New Orleans, Louisiana. Telly is the CEO of the Medina Group. He also works with an organization called Oxfam, which is an environmental organization. Next to Telly, we have Miss Adrienne Cooper, who's with a nonprofit organization based in D.C. Called Defend Our Future. They are a project of the Environmental Defense Fund. Both of these two are experts when it comes to climate change and environmental justice, and why that is important, you will hear as we have the conversation today. We next have Miss Brandy Harvey, who is also from Cleveland, but currently lives in Atlanta. She is the executive director of the Steve and Marjorie Harvey Foundation. Anybody ever heard of Steve Harvey? Yeah, not as much as Brandy has, because that's her dad. So we're grateful to have Brandy here today. And then finally, we have Mr. Kwame Jackson, who is based in New York City. He is an entrepreneur. He's a public speaker. He is he really has his pulse on what's happening with Black millennials. He talks to corporations every day about how they can reach out to you all and how you all shape the culture. And he is from Charlotte, North Carolina. Like I said, lives in New York City. So we're going to go ahead and get started. And before we do, I just want to say that we're going to have a good amount of the conversation where we take questions from you all, from the audience, but we're also going to take questions via Twitter. So I encourage you to use the hashtag #ChangeTheClimate, hashtag #ChangeTheClimate. You can also follow the tour and follow the conversation at the CTC Tour on Twitter and on IG, and Changing the Climate on Facebook. We all got that? What's the hashtag for today? What's the hashtag for today, y'all? All right, cool. So let me get started. And I want to just really start with a very simple but maybe not so simple question to the panel. And like I said, in a couple of days, really, people are going to be voting in mass at the polls. Why in the world should black people vote? Period. Anybody. I'm going to start with Kwame.
How you doing, Wilberforce? Where the noops at? There you go. There we go. And the new president. Good. I'm glad you came out. We got alphas up here. We got two ladies at DST. And I think, one thing that you're always remiss in saying, Stephanie, is we have 3 people up here who've worked in the White House, who've come to see you from the White House. I mean, people who have major policy experience in how to craft everything that we're doing out here as part of this election. Why should you vote? A lot of people think that, I'm not going to vote in this election because I don't really like Hillary or I don't really like Donald Trump and, my interests aren't represented, so I'm just not going to vote for anybody. That is the worst possible decision that you will ever make. There's a fellow panelist on here named Tamika Mallory who said one great thing. She said, if you are not at the table, then you are on the menu. Think about that. If you don't have a seat at the table and you're not voting in the political process, then you will be on the menu. Your issues will be eaten up and dissected by everybody else, and you won't have an opportunity to have your voice heard. So 2 reasons I think you should vote. One, for me, has to do with legacy. The legacy of this great school. We came to this university because it was the first private, historically black college and university, a place where people came to get educated and created great people who came out and uplifted our society. You do all those people a disservice by not going out and voting. Their legacy that you stand on their shoulders, everybody stand on somebody's shoulders, right? Raise your hand if you stand on Big Mama's shoulders. If you stand on, your cousin who gave you some money to get here, who moved you in a van to get your stuff to Wilberforce. Everyone is standing on somebody's shoulders. So you represent all those people who helped get here today, the people who made those sacrifices. So you owe them a duty to vote and be part of that legacy. That's number 1. Number 2, it's a local decision. So there's a saying that says all politics is local, which means it's not so much about Hillary, it's not so much about Donald, it's about the local issues that affect you in your community. So we talk a lot about environmental policy. So where are they going to put the incinerator in your community? Where are they going to put the landfill in your community? Where are they going to place, jobs and opportunities and career centers? All those decisions are made on the local level. So electing local city council officials, electing, your local sheriff that might have an influence on, things that have to do with the criminal justice reform and how people are policed, like in Ferguson, we all know. Those are all local decisions that you can impact that affect everyday neighborhood interaction. So on the legacy level, you should vote, and on the local level, you should vote because that's where you're going to have an impact.
I also think, because I don't think this is popping right now, but, what's up, everybody? My name is Brandy Harvey. I'm born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio, so OHIO, we up in this piece. But, like, what up, though? Like, somebody show somebody some love. But just, when I think for sure with Kwame, I totally agree, historically, why we should vote, right? That our ancestors bled and died, were hanged from trees for the fact that they wanted the right to vote, right? So if your vote wasn't important, they wouldn't be trying to keep you from it if it wasn't important. But the second thing, and this is especially primarily to our black women, how many of y'all about to go out here and do the dang on thing when y'all get y'all degree and graduate? You about to be popping, like about to have your own house, own car, like Webby style, independent, But like on some real stuff, right? Black women make 60 cents per every dollar a white man makes. 60 cents per every dollar a white man makes. So when you think about unfair and unequal pay, that's what you're voting about when you go to the polls on November 8th or do early voting. The second thing, black women, is how many of y'all want to have some babies one day? Possibly, I don't know, some of y'all dealing with some childhood issues, might not be quite ready to resolve that. But when you look at reproductive health in this country, right, there's always been an assault on black bodies, and primarily the black female body. So if you want access to proper health care for your child, or just in case something happens to you and you want to have control over the say of what you do with your body, you voting on that when you go to the polls. You're voting for the right to not vaccinate your child when you go to the polls. Those are things that we need to think about, because systematically we've been sold this whole little deal like, oh, you know what, like my vote don't matter. Like, that's why your uncle and your daddy and your brother and your cousin is sitting in prison right now off of a 1994 federal crime bill, right? Because we didn't go out to vote. And so when you look at who is affected in this country by voting or the lack thereof, and 9 times out of 10 is gonna be us. It's gonna be communities of color. So I really want, and especially when you think about who you're voting for, and I wanna go back to that vaccination piece because it's very critical. MMR, right, the MMR vaccination, this is what's determined in government, right, how you control your body. The state of California passed SB 277, which says it is required for children to have a certain amount of vaccines before they can be in school. But guess what we do know? A whistleblower came out with the MMR vaccination in 2014 by the CDC that said black boys are 240% more likely to become autistic or have autism based off of an MMR vaccination. So you need to be thinking about how your children are going to be affected in the livelihood of their life and their health and what you have control over. Be conscious when you go to the polls. It ain't just about you. It's about the lives of yourself, your family, and your children when you go out to the polls.
So I love that Brandy just really broke down a lot of issues that are very timely, that impact all of us in this room. And we sometimes hear about these issues, like, we hear in the media about these issues, but unfortunately, there are some issues that we don't hear a lot about. And one of those issues is climate change or environmental justice or environmental equity. But yet, it is an issue that impacts really all of us in this room. So I want to ask both Telly and Adrian, if you could speak to us a little bit about this kind of little-known issue and why it is something that, even in this election season, why it's an issue that we should be paying attention to.
So environmental issues are important because they affect disproportionately, like everything in this country, black people more than they affect, other communities. Our kids get asthma at a higher rate. Our communities are neighborhoods that are impacted by storms that are increasing because of climate change, and we need to put politicians in place that are going to support policies that help protect our children and help protect our communities. And so when we go to the polls, we need to be thinking about things like that. And so what I work on is trying to broaden the conversation around climate to bring people into the conversation that look like us, because traditionally the people who discuss climate change don't look like us, and they're not talking about the issues that affect us. And so it's very important that when we are looking at politicians and the policies that they're promoting policies that help our communities in all aspects, especially around environmental issues.
So I'll give you an example of how the environmental issues relate to money based off of where I come from. I'm from New Orleans. You heard of something called Katrina that happened some almost 10, 11, 12 years back, right? And so the reason why environmental issues that are connected to money make sense affects the black folks in this room. Quick breakdown. When Katrina happened, when you have to clean up everything, clean up, debris removal, remove all the trash, was $56 a cubic yard, right? So it's $56 per amount of trash that you pick up. By the time this brother was the local contractor doing the work and others removed money off the table, guess how much money was left on the table per yard? $7. So the person who physically did the work and cleaned it up to rebuild, who's probably was from New Orleans and the surrounding area, who we know was black, good portion of the time, it was $7 left on the table, but we started at $56. That is a direct correlation to you not having political power when you make the decision not to vote. Now, let me give you the inverse example. In a city like Detroit, there was one brother who had a plan and a vision. After storms that happened there, he went to the city council and he said, how much does it cost the city to pick up trees and debris in the city of Detroit? The city council told him it was $250,000. He said, cool, I want to remove it from your books and I'm going to pick it up. This dude had 2 Sanford & Son old raggedy pickup trucks, right? Him and his partner were going to move the stuff out. He said, but before I do it, there's an old warehouse that y'all not even using. I want you to lease it to me. This is something your president would probably negotiate, some slick contract like this. I want to lease it for $1 a year for the next 50 years. He went home, had a conversation with his wife, and he said, I need to take all of the money in the 401k and buy these humongous mulchers. You know what those are? The thing that you feed the trees in, and it comes out with stuff that you can decorate and put in the grass. So he bought the mulchers. He had a big old lot. The city of Detroit needed to buy mulch from him, and he had to go and get the contract for the city council. Guess how much the contract was for? $250,000. That's a come up. That's the environmental issues that are surrounding you that have to do with money. And so if anything, if you're not paying the climate change, pay attention to how the money is being distributed as a part of this process, and then we can then make the decision to look at how it affects you. Black people, 67% more likely to have asthma than white kids. Is it because that you're not breathing the same air, or that you're closer to an incinerator or a refinery? For us who are in between Texas and Florida who are by refineries, it's a big deal, and we're seeing how those numbers relate to cancer. So you have to pay attention to the money and the issues and the things around you that may be affecting your environment.
So it's interesting that you talked about money, and as we talk about politics, there's a saying that politics is about 2 things. It's about the money, and it's about the votes. And the people that have the money, oftentimes they get the meetings with the president, they get the meetings with the Congress people. The people who have the votes also get the meetings with the president. So what I'm trying to figure out is, what's the disconnect? If we know that people who have money, people who have the votes, get access to those who make decisions, why is it that it seems as though folks in our community aren't encouraged to vote, knowing that that's how you can influence policies to get things done? And how do we help that? How do we help bridge that disconnect?
I'll take a shot at it. One of the most significant things that ever happens in your life happens every 10 years. And it happened 6 years ago, and it's coming up again. And it's called the census. Everybody, your grandma, anybody ever got hired to go knock door to door? And you know what the census does? The census is seeing how many people live in a place, live in a zip code, and then it will make a decision on how the resources, the money, will be allocated for your playground, for your area, right? And so that is significant, and I'm going to tie that to politics for you and give you the expression why. If you live in the area of Wilberforce, right, and everybody, how many people are registered to vote here on campus? How many people are registered to vote? And maybe you're going to vote back home, or maybe if you're in the area, you're going to vote here. And the president has a vision, a very clear vision that he explained, I guess like only a Kappa man can, right, about what we're going to do with the other side of campus, right? And so if he has that land and it's annexed, and he knows that he can get resources from the city council, the mayor, and or the governor, what do you think the decision-making processes are going to happen around what the president's ask is going to be when talking to that council or the governor? Do them black kids over there vote? Do any of their daddies or mamas give money to what is happening within the area? Those are the 2 things that politicians always go back to. So if you're trying to control your position and what's happening within your neighborhoods and your resources, if you don't have any paper, and that's all right, eventually you will, if you keep grinding. But that voting is so significant because it can help the resources around you. And when I say the resources around you, you do know what I mean. You pay taxes. You pay taxes that go to the federal government and that go to the state legislature, and then those people are gonna make decisions in your neighborhood based off the money that you put into the system. If you're not paying attention to the game each and every day, that's how you get had and people take advantage of you. So make sure that you're doing this voting, because it's affecting when you go to the grocery store, it's affecting you when you buy a car, your house, whether you have a driver's license or not. All of those things are happening at the local, state, and federal level. That's why it's significant.
Let me jump in and add one more person. How many of you all are paying 100% of your school fees out of your pocket? Okay. How many of you all have loans? Trying to get loans? Okay. So if you have loans, which is the majority of people in college, the repayment of those loans are controlled by federal entities. So if you want to change the repayment plan, if you want to change the rate at which you're paying the loans in terms of their interest rate, all those decisions are made at the federal level. So if you're concerned about your loans and how you're going to pay for school and how you're going to get out of debt after school, all those are voting level decisions. So it makes it real personal for everyone in this room who's trying to finance their own education, that you can have an impact on your financial future by how you control your debt load, your student loans, and the repayment rate. So that's how local it is, and that's why it's important, like she said, to organize and to consolidate, to move a policy towards something that's going to benefit you.
So then, okay, we've talked about issues and why it's important to vote, which we're all gonna get ready to do. Who's able to vote? We're gonna vote on November what? On November what?
What?
All right, cool. November 8th, we're gonna vote. But what happens after we vote? Like, and why should we not get discouraged when we vote and then it seems like nothing changes? Like, how do we create change after the vote?
A lot of it, I think, is not waiting around. I think, especially in our community, we keep waiting for this mysterious leader to appear. We keep waiting for this when's our new civil rights leader gonna emerge? Well, hell, you are the civil rights leader. You are the people we've been waiting on. Y'all sit on y'all phones every single day and get bombarded by a trauma and a message of the homie getting shot or getting his face bashed out by the police, right? You replay that every single day on your phone. You looking at your phone, hoping who Nene and Bebe and them gonna have a hashtag today? Who gonna have a hashtag today? But y'all forget that the political power or the real communal galvanizing power rests within y'all. It's how many people up in here, right? If y'all all said, you know what, this is our issue. This is what we committed to. We committed to making our neighborhoods better. We committed to making sure that the kids who came behind us at our elementary school or our middle school have a voice. Make sure that they get the knowledge that we didn't get. See, that's the part that y'all lose, that you keep waiting on somebody else to come in with a cape and save you in your community. You are the cape wearer. You got an S on your chest. Show it off. Get involved. Quit sitting around, well, they don't do that here. Well, hell, you do it. They don't have good stuff here. I'm waiting on a good program. The president, he knew. He be wearing fitted caps. I want a fitted cap. You know what?
Go get you a cap.
Go get you a cap.
And make one if it don't exist, right? Hello.
But you know what? I'm saying that in a lighthearted way because I need y'all to understand that the real power is within you. When I look at the kids in our mentoring program, and I'm looking at kids from fatherless homes whose parents have been incarcerated, whose parents are no longer here on this earth, or who just got a daddy who don't give a damn about them, right? So these are people that I'm coming in contact with every single day. And to whom much is given, I've been blessed in my life. My family is very blessed. But it's our job, it's our duty because we've been blessed to go out and go forth and bless somebody else. See, that's our job. So y'all sitting here at Wilberforce, y'all the talented 10th, and we talking about what you gonna do on November 9th. Hell, what y'all gonna do on October the 26th? What you gonna do in your community right here? How you gonna uplift the people that you sitting right next to who need you? The world need what you got. but you waiting around on somebody else to step in and fill the shoes that you big enough to fill. So y'all educated black people who's sitting up in here, who's sitting on the fact that you educated, if you're not out here going to get somebody else, if you're not out here going to get that young boy and that young girl to teach them the way and show them the right way, show them how to get in Wilberforce. Hell, just show them how to get out the hood. If you're not willing to do that, you don't deserve to be on the planet because you are an oxygen thief. And you all have the responsibility. And I get worked up and I get passionate about y'all because I'm trying to get my kids who are coming through the program to sit in these seats, to fill these seats. And we go sit up in these colleges and hell, y'all act like y'all don't even want to sit in the seat. But when you sit in the seat, know that the responsibility comes with it. Accountability comes with it. So if you sitting here and you're not going back to get the little homie in the hood, then you should walk out right now.
Thank y'all for coming today. This has been great. We gonna just leave.
You only get one shot with black people, you know that. They only listen for 2 minutes.
And so I'm with you all day, Brandy. But let me say this. Sometimes we even know that. Sometimes we even know how powerful we are. But I got finals. Right. My boyfriend just broke up with me. He with that chick down the street, and she not even cute. My mama is calling me because she need me to send her some money. I'm stressed. I ain't got time to be no leader, no activist, no advocate. I don't have time for any of that. I might have time to vote, but I don't know that I have the time to put in to wear the S on my chest and bring somebody up with me. So I'm going to ask you, Adrian, a question just about how do we make the time in the midst of all that we have as students, as young people, how do we make the time to be involved in issues that we care about?
I think you have to make them personal. Like a lot of these issues, especially the ones that Brandy you're talking about, are huge issues, right? They feel so big, whether it's criminal justice or the environment, which Tully and I talked about earlier. And I think you have to figure out a way to make them personal to you. If you have a sibling that's suffering from asthma, or if you have a family member or someone who has been a victim of the criminal justice system, you just start personal, make it personal, and figure out a way to make it important to you. And then it's a ladder of engagement. Make a change if you're talking about the environment. Make changes in your own personal life. And how you use energy or walk instead of taking a car, ride a bike. Make small changes first in your own life, and then, expand that to your community, to your classmates, to your neighbors, to your parents and your family. And then, just continue to climb the ladder of engagement, and eventually, you can find a nonprofit that's working on the issue that you care about. Join that nonprofit. But the key is to make it personal. And you can't start with this 30,000-foot level because then it just feels crushing and too big. So I think you need to start small and then gradually, make it bigger.
This is one thing I would say. Man, when you're on a college campus, you got time to do anything you want to do. Y'all ain't studying that much, right? Let's be real. When I was on a college campus, I was taking a full load, working 2 jobs, pledging. I did everything under the sun. Because the neighborhood that I came from, my mother literally in Washington Parish had to leave because she got into it with a young white male where she was picking cotton to get through high school. This is last generation. So when I had the opportunity to get to college and I was going to leave the D-boys off the corner, there was nothing in hell that was going to stop me from getting it. I have worked 38 jobs since I was 11 years old. 38 jobs and I'm 35. Whatever it was going to take to grind and not see those cats on the corner because they said, hey man, we making more money. You do your thing, brother. But realize this here at Wilberforce. If there's a cat who just want to lay in the bed and not go to class, leave that Negro there. If she just wants to chill and go out with her homegirls, you ain't kicking it with her in the future anyway. Find that other hungry cat who is here, who mama didn't have enough to eat and he was eating syrup sandwiches on Friday night. I'm talking about me. And do whatever is possible. Learn as much as humanly possible. Go to the president's office all the time. They can be saying, oh, he kissing the president's ass. Whatever. This cat got knowledge that I need to get. And the thing that you're realizing about when people are trying to come up, they think that in order for you to make money, that it is so much about who you know. At some point, it has to deal with your intellect. So, ladies, if you see that one brother who's on the basketball team, he working out, lifting weights in the morning, before it's time for practice, he's eating healthy, he's still studying, they got a 3.5 GPA, or 3, whatever it's gonna be, right? And he is grinding. Those are the people that you wanna put in your space. If he cannot wake up if he can go out on Saturday night, every Sunday morning I was at church, no matter what. And I say that because it allowed me to have a spiritual center, and it replaced what I couldn't get from mama busting me in the head saying, you better wake up, you better go get it. I ain't picked cotton just to get here. And I'm joking, but I'm serious. This was real life. So when we're looking at these elections, it ain't perfect. You don't have the perfect candidates that are getting you exactly what you want, but put that person in office and then go grind, bring your team, and if they don't do what you want, vote them out of office. And if you think you can do a better job, then run for office. Why can't you run for president? There was already a Negro who did that. Why can't you run for the U.S. Senate? There are already people who are doing that. But you got to have a plan, and the foundation is right now here at Wilberforce. And 20 years from now, that cat who was grinding, the one who was eating ramen when he didn't have no food, the one who had the raggedy car and who had to catch the bus, that's going to be the cat with the paper. He going to have the things that he needs to go forward in life because he or she was hungry and never gave up.
You dropping science. Hey, one thing I was going to say as just a capstone and to play off Telly is there's this saying, I have a chance to speak at colleges all around the nation. I talk about hard work beats talent when talent refuses to work hard.
That is true.
You ever heard that? Hard work
repeat
beats
that?
talent when talent refuses to work hard. And that's what Telly's talking about. That has to do with the election. That has to do with getting out to vote. That has to do with getting your first job. That has to do with getting your first girlfriend. Hard work's gonna be talent when talent refuses to work hard. So everybody in here has an opportunity. Everybody in here has a story. Everybody in here has a fire in them. And it's all about what you do with that fire, how you amplify it, how you go out and focus it on a political issue that means something to you, how you go out and you uplift somebody in the community to bring them along into this space, and how you uplift and live up to your best potential in terms of the potential you have to go out and change the world. So remember that. Hard work beats talent when talent refuses to work hard. You don't want to be on the other side of that equation.
So we've talked a lot about, well, let me pause and do a little commercial break. The hashtag today is Change the Climate. So we're going to take some questions from the audience in just a minute, and we're going to use the hashtag via Twitter to get some questions. What he just said was a tweetable moment, so I hope y'all put that on your social media accounts. So I'm going to come to the audience in a second, but we talked a lot about personal responsibility and accountability. And I think accountability is a really key word when we connect that with politics and with policy and with elections. Yes, we have to hold ourselves accountable. But it's a lot of people out here who are trying to get our votes, who only show up to the church when they need our votes.
That is true.
Knowing you'll never go to church, but now you're here to get my vote. So let me ask you, why is it important for us to hold the people accountable who we elect or who are trying to get our votes? And what does accountability even mean to you?
Telly, you want to start?
What does accountability mean? Remember I talked about you paying your taxes if you went and bought some groceries. In New Orleans, we would say make groceries. I know that don't make no sense to y'all. But if you are paying taxes, the person who is running for office, you're paying for them to have that job. Realize that. Think about that and sink in that if you are paying taxes, you are paying for them to have a job and to dictate what is going to happen in the Congress, in the Senate, in the president, in the city council race, in the district attorney's race, right? So after that person gets in office, you know the person that gets on the person that gets the most opportunities, the person who is aggravating, the person, as someone said previously, is a pest. If there is a dude who is trying to get at a girl, and each and every day this brother got flowers, and he's saying, I just want to take you out. I'm just trying to get at you. I know you dealing with a boy, but I'm just trying to get at you. What do I have to do? What do
You
I
gotta
have to
feed
do?
me. I mean, do you have food with them flowers? Cause bro,
We can take you to the local Burger King, but with that said, I'm saying, I'm joking. In college, you ain't got no money. Burger King might be a come up.
King was a treat.
Yeah, hey, that's flame brown hamburger. I'm saying the seriousness of that is, if you have people who are in office and you want to get something done, when you call that office, they're going to put that in the record, right? If you send a letter, they're going to put that in the record log. If you send an email, they're going to put that in the record log. If you follow them on Instagram, they're going to put that in the record log. Facebook, Twitter. Now you are starting to create so much energy, and you're getting the rest of the folks from Wilberforce to do the same. You know what the politicians are going to say? Please let me deal with this person. They get on my damn nerves. I don't want to be bothered with them no more. What do I have to do to get the issue? Now, here's the thing. Once you get the audience with them, if you don't know the language in the game, take your girl or take the president, whoever that is, in order to be able to articulate your ask, right? So if you can articulate your ask and know what it is, then you start to follow the necessary steps to hold that person accountable. But remember this, only the people who are holding the politicians accountable will get what they want. Because if a politician or a person who is in authority don't have to pay attention to you because you don't vote, you don't go to class, oh, I saw you hanging out drinking on campus, then why do I have to be concerned about you? Just because you're here existing, you're just another person taking up space. That's the reality of it. It's a grind.
so let me just say, and I know I said I was gonna go to the audience, but I just have one quick thing. So you mentioned something, and it just gave me a thought. I think sometimes what personally frustrates me is that maybe politicians or people in leadership, they don't quite understand us. Like, people, especially when it comes to Black culture, people may jack our culture, but they don't appreciate our culture. That's true. You don't even, you think you see me, but you don't really see me, right? So, especially for, I'm thinking about even the issue of environmental justice or climate change. When I hear climate change, a lot of times, one is white people talking about it.
Polar bears, ice caps.
Some trees. I've never seen a polar bear outside the zoo. And that was when I was like 5. But when you turn on the news and you hear about Chicago, you hear that gun violence is crazy in Chicago, right? We've all heard about the gun violence in Chicago. But did you know that actually more young Black people in Chicago die from asthma than they do from gun violence? But do you ever see that on TV? So that's something that is so serious for our community, but that's not being talked about by anybody. That's not the image that you see when it comes to what Black folks care about. So I'm wondering, how do we change the narrative about Black people and our issues and who we are as a people? How do we start to have the mainstream, and maybe even the underground, but the mainstream really respect our voices and who we are as people?
Thanks for the layup. Thanks for the tee up. One of the things I do is I do multicultural marketing consulting for a lot of corporations. So I'm basically helping corporations like Google, like Verizon, like Pepsi, like Comcast, figure out how to reach this audience. African-American millennials. Do you know why they want to reach this audience? Because you all are culture creators. You are culture creators. Your culture that you create, whether it be hip hop, whether it be the way you dress, whether it be the hashtags that you tweet, whether it be on fleek, whatever it might be, becomes the culture of the world. Whether it's the culture that's created here at Wilberforce, becomes the culture in Cape Town. The culture created at Wilberforce becomes the culture in Helsinki, becomes the culture in Tokyo. So they are looking at you as the leader in culture, whether it's Jay-Z and Beyonce or anybody else who's creating culture that is seeping out into the world that determines what people buy, how they spend their money, how they dress, the places they go. So as culture creators, you have more power than you think you have. people are looking to you to set the next trends. What's going to be good in music? What's going to be the thing I should wear or do or go or see? And so as cultural creators, you have to understand the power you have to influence all kinds of societies that are outside of this room. So this room is a powerful group of students, and that can be harnessed both from a consumer standpoint with businesses who want to partner with this community, but also in the political arena as well.
So I want to go to the audience to see if there's any questions for the panelists. Or yes, sir. If you can just say your name and.
How you doing? My name is Chaz Walker, Cincinnati, Ohio. My question is, a lot of the times we elect officials to put on facades to say that, you know, they're here to represent our issues. First part of my question is, how do we validate what it is that they're saying and that they're doing? And then how do we attempt to galvanize those to hold them accountable for what they're saying they're not doing and make these backdoor deals that don't affect us in a negative way?
So like fact checking. Yeah. Great.
So it's a great question. All deals that are happening back doors. Let's realize that. So when you're making decisions about what is about to go down, people are having those quiet conversations. But you heard Kwame say that if you are not at the table, you're on the menu. Being at the table means that you need to be in the back doors. But how do you get to the back door, right? You got to have money, possibly, or you got to have a voting power. If you put together the block of Wilberforce students and all the people in the area, that's a block of 1,000 votes, 2,000 votes. And then when you want to affect something at the city council level and or the congressional level, now you have a leg to stand on. So when you go and you're saying, okay, we want to make a decision about the new highway. The highway is going to affect what's going to run through Wilberforce. We know that that might not be a good place because the students need to cross over. Now, what are the things that you need to put in place? I need speed bumps. I need to have a sign that says slow down. I also want them to pay for that this is the home of Wilberforce. We need to be able to see it so we can advertise. Now, what does that do when they're putting on the facade? The facade is going to be predicated on the voting record. So now when we go back to look at the highways, you're going to get somebody to research and see, well, what have you done on this highway all these times? Why, when there was money that was allocated, it went to that neighborhood way over there that always have good highways and not this area? But we gave you the reason why. That area generates $1 million in taxes. This area may generate $250,000 in taxes. The $750,000 difference may mean that I need to go put my resources over there rather than come over here. But what did you have to stand on? You had the votes. So now you don't want to be able to go send your Facebook Live or your blast and say, hey, if you're not with me on making sure that we got the Wilberforce sign, the slow down mileage, and the new street, I'm going to tell all 2,000 of my Wilberforce people and friends that we don't need to be with you in the next election cycle, and or I'm going to put it out there and go to somebody else who can get it done. That's how you pull away the facade. You got to do the homework. You have to find the people who are already doing some of the type of work, people like Stephanie Brown James and the organization around. That's not that hard for you to find. But if you can go to the record, you can see what that person has done on paper, and that would allow you to address your issue.
Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
A lot of people don't vote for the Republican candidates or the Democrat candidates because they don't think there's other candidates out there, but I do know that there's independent candidates. And how do you know if they're for you, and why aren't they more like advertised?
I think that that's a great question, number one. I mean, the fact that you have the Republican Party, the fact you have the Democrat Party, those are the prominent parties in history, and they get the majority of the funding, the majority of the votes. But there are independent candidates. There's a green economy candidate. There are folks out there who are running on other tickets. But we have to put that back into what we talked about before and the importance of hard work, which means you have to do the research. You have to go onto the internet and find out what their principles are and what their platform are. You have to figure out which of these candidates, if I look across the, 4 candidates that are out there, which ones have the priorities and the issues and the platform points that resonate with me and the things that matter for me. So I put that onus on you, that you have to go out and research and find those a little bit more so than the people who are just advertised in the majority of the space. So make sure you're doing your homework.
And one suggestion I will have is, you know, sometimes I think we don't pause enough to really figure out, like, how do I feel? Like, what do I value? What's important to me? And then we don't spread that message amongst the people who we care about to say, hey, these are the four things I care about. I care about having access to birth control. I care about being able to have affordable student loans. I care about my little baby being able to go to pre-K. And I care about, you know, not having taxes that I think are too much for my property taxes. I don't know, whatever your issues may be, right? Taking the time to figure out even what are the top four things that you care about. And then doing a survey of people who are running for office. Oh, let me say, my fifth one is, do you respect black people? But anyway, that's kind of hard to figure out sometimes. But anyways, take your issues and then figure out who checks the boxes for your issues. And go to where they are talking and ask them, do you care about these four issues that I care about? And as you start to have your own grade and your own check sheet on these candidates, which is partly holding them accountable too, because if I go to your forum or I have a conversation with you and you say that, oh yeah, I'm for these four issues that you care about, and then I help to get you elected, and then next thing you know, you're not making any movement on the issues that I care about, well, we got a problem. You said one thing and did another. So I'm going to hold you accountable and let everybody know they back talking, right? So really taking the time to figure out what you care about is important. What does your mama care about? What's your dad care about? Because you're representing them as well. But first you got to start off with how you feel and do the research, as Telly said, to be able to figure out, okay, then who really has your best interest in mind?
But it's like the power that this generation has right here in this room, which is Black Lives Matter. Your generation, the people in this room created that. You created the energy and the movement around this whole, what we call the second civil rights movement, standing up for, you know, equal justice under the law, standing up for prison reform, standing up for the fact that we don't want to be harassed every day or even killed by police. You created that. And so you have a lot more power, once again, than you even think. You have the ability to affect change. You have the ability to create the agenda that's going to change the world. So remember that as you go out and the issues we put forward.
Any other questions? And I just want to thank January 18th @love_dance with the number 3 in the end for saying y'all speaking knowledge tonight. Thank you for that shout out on Twitter. Are there any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Cindy Johnson, freshman. In an area like Ohio, with predominantly white population around us, our voices are not the most certain. So how do we make sure that our voices are heard?
But your voice is how?
Our lives aren't valued the same way they're going to be in Atlanta or Washington, or White House, or
Atlanta still the South. I live in Atlanta. I still live in Atlanta. When you look at the South, how disproportionately black women, are affected in the South by unequal pay, access to public health, and then when you look at the incarceration rates in the South. So TV makes cities look one way, right? It looked like the Black Hollywood, Black Mecca, it's popping down there. It's lit. It's a lituation in Atlanta. I can't wait to get there. But you have to understand, like, this is Ohio, right? Born and raised. This state, we talked about this yesterday, it is a swing state, right? It can go Democrat, it can go Republican. But you have to understand the values of Ohio in the foundation of Ohio. Yeah, this was kind of free. It was kind of free. It was kind of liberal, but not so much, right? So I think you have to be cognizant of the surrounding area, but you also got to know that your voice here, you got 2,000 people, right? Don't discount that. Don't discredit that. Like, you're on this new wave, this new generation of leadership. You are the future generation. Like, when we keep saying that redundant kind of remark that the world is looking at you, the country's looking at you. Everywhere we go in this country, the vote is really dependent upon your vote. And you got to understand that don't discredit that because you see some Trump. You going to see that. Hell, you still see Confederate flags flying around, don't you? And what that mean? Guess what? They always gonna be here. That's the foundation of this country. The Constitution was built on racism. The Constitution was built on disenfranchising black people and people of color. So you already know that going out the gate. Every time you walk out the door, you enemy of the state. Know that. So if you got that in your mind, then when you see the Trump or whatever, whoever it is, right, that can't even sway you. Because look at the army you got behind y'all. Y'all can make some things happen. You just got to understand that everybody here got to have a collective voice. See, y'all forget about the collective power of the civil rights movement, right? It started in rooms like this, in the basement of churches like this, with young people. North Carolina A&T sitting in Woolworths. You got people at Spelman students sitting in lunch counters to make this and forge a way for you. Don't discredit that because you see somebody who got something stuck up in their yard. That can't change your game because you're going to be hit with that everywhere you go. And they not going to have no signs. Guess what? They're going to have on suits, they're going to have on ties, and they're going to sign checks. And guess what? They ain't going to give a damn about you then either. So you got to understand that, right? So don't count yourself as powerless because you see some flyers or some stuff in the ground. Know who you are. Know the power that you got as black people. Like, we really do have the power to change the world. We done it. We survived the largest involuntary movement of people in the history of the planet. That was the African diaspora. We lost 30, 40 million, but you a product of the millions that made it. You better understand what that mean, though.
One way I answer your question is this. The one thing people can't beat you with is the information. On one of the tickets, there's a guy who was the governor of Indiana. Even if that gentleman had run for re-election, it was a real possibility that it wouldn't happen. Why? The biggest movement that he was making was to privatize prisons in Indiana. Big labor state, a lot of African Americans, right? In order for privatized prisons to be profitable, they have to be 86% occupied. Did you hear what I just said? 86% occupied in order for them to be profitable. And every business is in the business of doing what? Making money. Now let me give you the game of why you have to know this. I'm a lobbyist in Louisiana, right? The individuals who pay the most money for minuscule laws in order to put people in jails, guess who they are? Prisons. Think about that information. So now when you're concerned about seeing the Trump signs outside of the yard, and you're saying to yourself, maybe you're not voting for Trump, not telling you who to vote for. But your game is not just that presidential race, and that race seems so far and far away. You're concerned about the prison. You're concerned about Wilberforce. You're concerned about the grocery store. Therefore, the game local is the district attorney's race, the city council race, the person who sets property taxes, because you might not ever meet Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, or Donald Trump. Yeah, they're cool, right? But you will have a chance to meet the person who is the local tax assessor. He come and see the president. So think about what your resources going to be, and I'll end with this. African American women, the most significant voter block there is going to be for the next 2-3 election cycles. Women make 77 cents on the dollar nationwide. In the South, nationwide as a whole, in the South, maybe let's say some of the white women make 64 cents on the dollar. Do you know what African American women make below the Mason-Dixon line? 47 cents on a dollar. That's a reason enough to vote over and over again, right? Over and over again. So remember, voting can't be this one-time thing that you do every 4 years. It has to be, even if dog catcher is on the ballot, that you have to participate, but participate and know what you want out of it. Participate and know what the game is going to be because remember, the pest is going to get the resources. You keep aggravating, you keep going. So that's why you got to have a plan in between you voting for somebody so that you can extract your resources back out of them.
I just wanted to
So I
say
could-
this point on unity about the fact that if Wilberforce moves together, there's an old African proverb that says, if you want to go quickly, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. So if you're going to work together, if you're going to raise your voice as one here at Wilberforce, that's how you get heard. It's not just about you and your dorm and your apartment and the people who are your immediate friends that you have lunch with. It's about moving as a community. So if you want to go far, go together. That's the point.
So we have a question. Oh. So I have a question from the man. Who the man? Okay. The man 814. Question is, what exactly is environmental justice?
Go ahead.
Yeah. You want to talk about that, Adrian?
Go ahead.
Environmental justice is trying to, God, that's a big question.
Or maybe give an example of.
Well, it's Flint.
Injustice. What's
Well,
environmental
environmental injustice. It's Flint, Michigan. You've seen that Flint is suffering from a water crisis, and that African Americans, as Telly said, are more likely to have asthma because we're more likely to live in areas where they put incinerators or where they put landfills, and so they put things that are going to be harmful to our health in neighborhoods of people who can't afford to, fight them. So they put them in neighborhoods that are majority people of color or low income. And so environmental justice is fighting to change that. It's fighting to make sure that our neighborhoods are just as healthy and are just as safe as the neighborhoods of people who have the money to make sure that they're not going to be raising their children by incinerators or landfills or things of that nature. Or uranium mines, we get all of that.
Thank you, Demand. That was a good question. Next question is from the paper. How do we change the conversation about the negativity about Black Lives Matter and being pro-Black? So, for example, why does it seem like pro-Black is anti-white? That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about pro-Black. How do we change that narrative?
Two things. Let me jump back to the question before, and then I'm going to quickly. So, how many of you are familiar with the term food desert? Anyone heard food desert? You want to say what a food desert is? Knowledge, see? Cool to be smart and smart to be cool. That's what I call that. Freshman. An area that doesn't have the appropriate food resources. So you got to go to the corner store and everything is red fruit punch and everything is sugary and everything is salty potato chips. And then you go to another neighborhood and it's, Whole Foods galore. It's fresh salmon and it's organically grown this and organically grown that. That's part of environmental justice. It's about making sure that everyone has the same resources within a neighborhood to be healthy, to live a fit lifestyle, to breathe clean air and drink clean water like in Flint, Michigan. So that's what environmental justice is. Now, back to the question again, the pro-Black piece. I mentioned Kappa Alpha Psi before, and I'm a member of Kappa Alpha Psi and some brothers in the back. Who knows who Colin Kaepernick is? Colin Kaepernick is also a member of Kappa Alpha Psi. He pledged at University of Nevada. No, but I'm bringing it this. Don't laugh because you're Delta. Show us some love. But Colin Kaepernick started a movement, did he not? He started a movement about questioning the principles behind the national anthem and whether we are going to salute a flag that in spirit sometimes gives us a disservice in terms of what we're doing, in terms of being over-policed, in terms of being murdered by police, in terms of a police state that doesn't respect us. So he started a national dialogue. He doesn't have the perfect plan. He might not be the perfect messenger, but he started a dialogue. And so it's important to understand that when you're pro-Black and you have these discussions and about Black Lives Matter and police brutality, that a lot of people are trying to undercut his argument. And the reason I bring him up by saying, if you are pro-Black Lives Matter and you don't stand for the national anthem, then you must be anti-police, right? Or you must be anti-military. You're disrespecting the military. Now, the thing is, instead of focusing on the issues that he's trying to bring to light, they're focused on the process. It's not the appropriate place to protest. It's not the appropriate place to do this. But when has a protest ever been appropriate? When has it ever been appropriate to sit at a Woolworth lunch counter and try to change civil rights laws? So being disruptive, being somebody who's going to create a new society, being somebody who's going to create a new dialogue, a lot of times people are going to try to tear you down for the process. And they're going to say, oh, well, you know, you believe in Black Lives Matter, you believe in not standing up for the national anthem, then that must mean that you're anti something else. And no, it just means you're pro positive change for your own people and your own community. So don't let somebody use that trope, that false argument, that straw man on you that says in order to be positive and uplifting in your own community, you have to be anti somebody else.
Yo, look, I'm pro-black all day, every day. I don't care where my melanin pops everywhere I go. Okay, I'm popping like that. Okay, I'm Poppington because my melanin says so. Okay, like. When you are, I think what happens when you look at how culture, right? We talked about how music shapes culture, right? You look at the 1960s and the early 70s, right? What was the music, right? What fueled the movement? Say it loud. I'm black and I'm proud. You know, right? You had the music that fueled the movement. And so when you look at you all now, right, all this, well, they say I don't care about, I can't be pro-black. Yeah, they want you to not be pro-black. They don't want you to wear your hair because they scared of it. They don't want you to show up in all your splendor and all the finesse because we know how to do things better than anybody else. And when we do it, can't nobody do it like us because we do it so well, right? So when you come against, right, when people see our culture, right, they're instantly intimidated by it, right? But then they instantly jack it. So you got the Kardashian effect, right? You got the Kardashian effect. Now, all of a sudden, it's cool to have big lips. Now, when we was in school, growing up, she got big lips. Don't nobody. Now, Kylie got some lips, and now she hot. Y'all killing me with this right now.
And we buying her lipstick.
And we buying a lip stain. They don't want you to know who you are. That's why they took you out the history book. They don't want you to know the atrocities of slavery in this country and that we still here and we've experienced the most barbaric treatment of any people on the planet. They don't want you to know that because if you really knew who you were when you got up in the morning and walked out the door, if you knew how your hair was like that of the cosmos, if you knew that your skin was there to absorb the sun, if you knew that your nostrils were wide because you were meant to breathe in hot air, if you knew all of that when you got up and walked out the door, you wouldn't be scared of shit because you would know who you are. And I'm telling you that because y'all are the best and the brightest on the planet. There is nobody who can compete with a black man and a black woman. There is nobody who can. All things come from us. All humanity has come through the womb of a black woman. So when you know what time it is, you will operate and carry and conduct yourself in a manner that says, I'm all that, then some, a little bit more, and let me sprinkle this magic on you because I got a little bit more. What Salon say? My magic what? It's okay. You can have some, right? You can have it because I got too much. Y'all got to know who you are, black people. Know your history. Know who the shoulders on which you standing. If you don't know how black people have survived and overcome through the history of this country and in this world, you will continue to be bamboozled every single day and get regurgitated and resold your own culture and not know it and not recognize it when you at the cash register.
Thank you, Brandy. So I'm going to move on. Thank you for breaking that down. I'm going to move on to a question we have from Twitter from Mars at The Worka. I like that, Mars. What's the best way for a young advocate and activist to ignite the fire that was ignited in me? Hashtag, how do you change the climate? Tell you.
Change the climate. Do the homework first and know what you're going to see. So I'm going to connect that to what Black Lives Matter means. When the NBA opened up on yesterday for the first game, who was the performer? Wiz Khalifa. Why should we feel comfortable with Wiz Khalifa in front of white folks on NBA television? Does that make sense to you? Your president would tell you 20 years ago that wouldn't have happened, wouldn't have been possible. What is this Negro talking about? What is this music? Why does it make sense? 2 questions to Black Lives Matter and why it's significant. If your mama had breast cancer and you go to the breast cancer walk, does that mean you hate all the rest of the cancers? Do you not care about people who have ovarian cancer or lung cancer or any other thing? So you're just concerned about your significant issue, right? It's your significant issue. That's why it's important that you know exactly what your plan is. If you got a fire that's igniting in you as it relates to an environmental issue, which issue is affecting you? Do you have asthma, right? Do you think that the planet is too hot? We know it's too hot because it's like 80 degrees back in the south and it's November almost. So something is wrong with what's going on. But how do you, and I use the cancer explanation in order to change the conversation. Right now in this country, with American Cancer Society, and a lot of black folks have cancer, you know of. Raise your hand if somebody in your family died of cancer or has cancer. Do you think all of these black folks had cancer 50 years ago, 40 years ago, 30 years ago, 20 years ago? And maybe it has to do with the food that we eat. We know that that's possible, right? Sugar causes inflammation. Inflammation leads to cancer. Be conscious of the sugar that you put in your body. That was some good cake we had, though, in the back. That was some good cake. But with that said, there are environmental issues that are affecting why our bodies are getting sick and why we have issues of cancer. That's an environmental justice issue just right there. You can work on that one significant issue, and the reason I brought up American Cancer Society, because they're going through a shift. It isn't just a white woman who lost her hair that is walking around in the hospital. We know that our numbers, just in ovarian cancer, brief fact, African-American women are more likely to contract an ovarian cancer, or have ovarian cancer, not contract, by 60% in comparison to whites. 24,000 will get ovarian cancer this year, and 17,000 of those 24 will die within 365 days. That's an environmental issue that you're dealing with right here, right now, that it connects the planet and it connects your body. So find out what your issue is, see if there are like-minded people around the issue, and then more importantly, be dogmatic about it. You have to be so dogmatic that I had a friend who was in New York. The friend was in New York. She saw this ugly dude on the street corner in front of a club who wanted to buy a CD. He pestered her. He asked her over and over again, boo, please buy you the CD. It's 91, it's 92. I'm selling CDs out the back of a Camry. I'm just trying to get on. She bought the dude's CD for $5. She threw it in the car. She never listened to it. And about a year later, she just so happened to be watching MTV, and a video came on. That video was Big Pimpin'. That dude was Jay-Z. This cat been grinding. 25 years in the game. You cannot let anybody get in your way. When you're excited about something, go at it with a passion. But if you're going at it with a passion, you gotta have the information.
I think Jay-Z's attractive, but I heard everything else that you said, but I just want to just clarify real quick. I heard you, but I think he is cute.
That's another panel. That's another panel.
All right, so let me do one more. So we have time for one more audience question. Go ahead, bro.
Them cues, real studios.
Let's represent.
I'm definitely a proponent of Black Lives Matter, but for students and those who are outside of these educational institutions who don't know what they need to know to support Black Lives Matter, how do we step back from Black Lives Matter and support our institutions that train and teach our students to go out and how to properly support Black Lives Matter?
No, I think that is a...
HBCU Board of Trustee.
Yeah, so I happen to be on the board of trustees for Howard University, one of the youngest ones on there, and so I'm trying to be the bridge between current students and also the I don't want to say older, the elderly. Elderly is a good word?
Senior.
Okay,
seasoned.
the senior seasoned
seasoned.
experienced folks on the
Veteran.
board. And I think, you know, and hopefully this will answer your question. The whole I appreciate Black Lives Matter movement. I like it especially because the sense of pride it has instilled in Black folks around the country and in folks who like Black folks. You know, there's a lot of allies who have come out, and now, you know, you got white folks being like, I love Black people, and I believe that they really do. You know, they just had an outlet to now be able to say, there's some who do, yeah. So I appreciate that. My challenge comes when we are okay with just doing enough. And to me, just doing enough is like, for example, tweeting about something, sharing the picture on IG. That's just enough. That's not all that we should be doing. What we should be doing is making sure that we get the information for ourselves, that we do our own research, instead of being so comfortable with a person having a quote on Twitter that we can just retweet and say, oh, well, I'm an activist now and I did something. That's not enough. That ain't gonna save not one Black person because you made a tweet, right? And on top of that, to then disrespect organizations or institutions like a Wilberforce University. And a lot of folks graduate and they say, man, I'm not gonna give any money back to Wilberforce because the line was too long in the financial aid loan office. Yeah, I mean, sometimes at a HBCU, that's what it is. But you got some piece of knowledge and education from your experience at Wilberforce or at Howard or whatever institution it is, and it's our responsibility, I think, as Black folks to make sure that our institutions stay strong. And so they have to stay strong not just by the money we give, but also the time and dedication that we give to come back. And the dedication that we give to reach those young people who need to know about Wilberforce. We have to create bridges, not just with money, but with time and with service. And so I think just really being able to focus on also like sustain. And somebody asked a question about when you have an issue that you want someone to act on, how do you know what's an appropriate time frame to say when you should be expecting to see results? We're playing a long game here. Too often we want to have a tweet happen or we want, you know, a march to happen and we think we should have change that happens the next day. That ain't never happened. Shoot, even Jesus was in the wilderness for 40 days, right? Like, because he had to go through a process. And we have to be comfortable to know, look, it's going to take a minute for some change to happen, but change will happen if we stay dedicated, if we stay hardworking, if we stay with a team rolling with us. And so spending time to build relationships, to figure out, okay, these are the like-minded issues we have, and then to create a plan of action. This is what we need to see done. Who are the decision makers who can make what we need to see done happen, and then staying on them to make sure that it does happen after a while. And that may take years to happen, but it takes hard work and dedication for change to come. So, I hope that kind of answered your question. I think it's a really good one that I would like to give more thought to, but I just can't press upon you all enough as current students to know that no matter what your experience may be here at Wilberforce, this is an institution that needs to last. And in order for it to last, it is upon you to make sure that this institution is strong. And so I would just encourage you to work with your new administration that's come in. I know we talked with your president. He said that he wants to work with you all to make sure that you all have all the resources that you need. But tell this man what y'all need. Let him know how you feel. Help be a helpmate to your own university to get what you need to get out of it so that you have the best experience and then say, you know what, I want my kids to go here. So with that, we're going to get ready to wrap because I think we have some food in the back for y'all, right? It's in the other room, so we want to make sure that y'all can eat at a timely manner. But before we close, I do want to give our panelists an opportunity to give very, very, very brief closing remarks, and then we're going to wrap. So
yeah, my closing remarks are going to build right off of what your last question, which is this. Nobody on this panel you see went to Wilberforce, right? I came here from New York City. She came here from Atlanta. She came here from Cincinnati by way of Cleveland. He came here from New Orleans. She came here from Cleveland. Nobody went to Wilberforce, but guess what? We're giving back to HBCUs because we believe in the mission of this university. We believe in our own communities, and we are living by our own example. So if we're going to do that, and we have other things to do, we can go out, make money, do these things, be with other people, be at the White House, but we're at Wilberforce. And so if we can have that kind of passion around being at Wilberforce and building HBCUs and giving back to our community, guess what you can do as an alum? as somebody who's seen the power of this institution, as someone who's been uplifted by this institution, we all have a commitment to uplift others. And that's a chance for us, for you from this panel itself, to know that we can go out and do and make changes like yourself. So thank you.
Final thoughts. Don't be good, be great. Don't be good, be great. I'll leave you with this. In the beginning, when God created the heavens and the earth, by the 26th verse of the first chapter, he said, I made male and female, he and she, in my image and in my likeness. If y'all don't understand who y'all are, by the 26th verse, you're going to get it. You are God's walking the earth. If you understand you are a God walking the earth, you will live better. You will walk better. You will talk better. You will educate yourself. You will equip yourself. You will prepare yourself. You will look like you somebody going somewhere when you understand you are a God walking the earth, the original man, the original woman, God's. Be great, Black people. Don't be good. Be great.
I would say be engaged, get involved, find the issue that matters to you, and figure out a way to work on it. And above all, most importantly, vote. There's never a reason not to vote. Don't let, perfect be the enemy of a good, because candidates are never going to be perfect. They're people too. So find the candidate that's going to advocate for the issues that are important for you and vote. Take someone with you to vote. If you're not old enough to vote, encourage your family to vote. But most importantly, vote.
The thing I would say is you have to be self-motivated every morning, right? There's a poem that if you're in a fraternity or sorority that you usually hear called Invictus. And Invictus will put it on your mind about what's significant. But I'm going to give you from one of the great leaders of our time, Winston Churchill. He said this, I am prepared to meet my maker, but whether my maker is prepared for the great ordeal of meeting me is another matter. Every day you leave out the door and you're going to class, again, if that Negro next to you don't want to take care of his business, that's on him. You got a plan, you got a mama, a preacher, somebody who sent you here. So within this 4-year time frame, maybe it takes 3 years, maybe it takes 5 years, come here to hone your mind, learn everything that you can, rock with the people who want to grind and who want to get at it, because those are going to be the people that when you come to Wilberforce homecoming 25 years from now, they're going to have paper. They're going to have good-looking people with them. They're going to be disciplined, right? They're going to have cute kids. Well, maybe some of them going to have ugly kids. I don't know. But with that said, those are going to be the people that you are going to bond with for a lifetime. And if you can have that lifetime bond here, you can do anything together. You can make money together. You can open businesses together. You can start a nonprofit together. You can support the church, but more importantly, always remember to support this institution is because this is the foundation.
So I want to just use my closing moments just to express my appreciation to all of you all for being here today. We thank you so much for having us. We appreciate the energy that was in the room. We appreciate the questions, the open door. This is the best welcome we've gotten in any school. Absolutely. So thank you, Wilberforce. We are in Ohio. That's how we do. But I also want to thank your president. I want to thank Dr. Tasha for making it possible for us to be here. Please follow along with our tour. Again, we are at the CTC Tour on social media. Also, #Change the Climate. There were a few questions we couldn't get to here. We're going to work to answer those via Twitter. So please continue to engage with us. Keep your mind open. Get your own information. Do some work with it and graduate. Thank y'all so much for having us here. We really appreciate you.
So before everybody goes, let's give them another round of applause for taking their time. I have a couple of announcements. I think that you all are open to people talking with you all. Absolutely. So they're going to stick around for a little bit. The pizza, hold on one second. Y'all sit back down or you got to be quiet. Next door is the pizza. There's pizza and soda, so you can get that. I want to remind you all that on Saturday is the Fall Festival from 1 to 3. The Women's Missionary, AME Women's Missionary Society is hosting that, so come on out. And then for homecoming, who's ready for homecoming? I can't hear y'all. Who's ready for homecoming? Thank you. There are so many events, but I want to mention a couple of things just really quickly. One is the unveiling of the Wilberforce Grail at 12 o'clock. The Woo Homecoming Rally. Who's ready to be hype? Working with you. And then, as you had this great event tonight, learning and listening, we have our own event here at Wilberforce that's called Empire State of Mind. It's on Monday on November the 1st, which is Tuesday at 4 o'clock p.m. And it's a continuation of this type of conversation, particularly talking about what is the role of HBCUs in thinking about Black Lives Matter and other social justice issues. So please join us at that time. But there's a gospel explosion on Sunday, all kinds of things. So thank you all very much for coming. As you're
And every time I hear something hot, it makes me want to move. It makes me want to have fun.